Hello and welcome to Metal Sales Manufacturing Corporation's installation video. Whether you're a do-it-yourselfer or a seasoned roofing professional, you'll learn specifics about handling metal sales materials and how they perform when properly installed. We'll also show you a few tricks to make your job easier and improve your performance. Now, because a picture is worth 1,000 words, this video is designed to help guide you through the installation process. Other tools are available to help you with the process, including printed installation guides, technical flyers, and shop drawings. Visit Metal Sales on the internet. You can download installation instructions or give us a call. Most metal sales products are built to meet or exceed industry performance standards for fire, water, and air resistance. For specifics on the product you've selected, contact your metal sales representative. The system you've selected is produced by Metal Sales Manufacturing Corporation, one of the world's leading suppliers of metal building materials. With more than 40 years of experience and facilities across the United States, Metal Sales products are known around the globe for versatility, durability, and beauty. Along with complete installation guides, Metal Sales provides up-to-date product detail and installation information on the internet, and staff is available to answer your questions. If your project already has field construction drawings that differ from the installation procedures in this video, the project's field construction drawings must take precedence. When your Metal Sales roof system is delivered, please check it for damages and make sure the quantities delivered match what's listed on the shipping list. If there are damages or if something is missing from your delivery, please notify your supplier within 24 hours. Even though metal sales materials are durable, they should be handled carefully to prevent bending the panels and scratches to the finish. If possible, keep bundles crated until they've been properly stored. If you open a bundle, recrate it before lifting it. When lifting bundles, lift from its center. Select a dry, well-ventilated place to store your metal sales panels, one that's away from heavy traffic if possible. Elevate one end of each bundle at least 2 feet so any moisture that accumulated in transit will run off. Make sure air can circulate around the bundles to avoid moisture buildup. Your roofing materials should not be stored directly on the ground. When unpacking the panels, some of the components may have a factory-applied peel-off plastic coating to protect the painted finish during shipping. Remove this protective coating before exposing the components to direct sunlight as you prepare for installation. To keep the finish crisp, avoid sliding panels or components across one another. The most important part of any construction project is safety. Installing a metal roof system is dangerous, and you should be extremely careful. Wearing personal protective gear and following OSHA guidelines is required. Use Kevlar-coated gloves to reduce the risk of abrasions and cuts when handling metal sales system components. Approved safety glasses are recommended to guard against flying debris. For additional protection, wear a hard hat, protective clothing, and a harness. Please refer to the installation guide or contact your representative for more information regarding handling and safety issues. When cutting the panels and flashings in the field, we recommend using tin snips or a nibbler-type electric tool. Be sure to wear protective eye goggles when cutting a metal sales panel. Before you begin installing your roof system, make sure the substructure is properly aligned and uniform to avoid panel distortion. If you're installing panels over a solid surface, you'll want to make sure a moisture barrier has been installed. Several types of moisture barriers are available. For maximum protection, we recommend using the MSHT self-adhering peel and stick high temp underlayment. If your project requires that you install insulation, there are many different types to choose from, including fiberglass, bare, and nail-based polyiso. For more information about underlayment and insulation, contact your representative. This video will provide you with the instructions to make your new installation or re-roofing process go smoothly. Before installing any Magna-Loc panels, all floating rake Z's, eave plates, gutter drips, valleys, and any other low-side flashings must be installed. Be sure to take wind uplift requirements and insulation thickness into consideration when choosing your clip type, size, and spacing. On our project here, we're using a floating panel system, so our first step is to install a floating rake Z to the framing member along the rake. You can start on either the left or right side at the eave. Looking eave to peak, you'll want to align the floating rake Z flush with the existing rake angle or framing. It's important to align this properly because it will affect every other panel you install. Using shoulder self-driller screws, fasten the floating rake Z at the center of each slot. Be careful not to over-tighten the screws because the floating rake Z's have to be able to move a little in order to properly install the Magna-Loc roof system. If you're using more than one floating rake Z, butt the ends and continue fastening. Make sure not to overlap the Z's. You may need to cut the floating rake Z so that it stops between 6 to 12 inches from the peak of the roof. You'll want to repeat this procedure along the opposite end where the panels end. Once you've installed all the floating rake Z's you need, you can add insulation by simply rolling it from eave to peak and laying the side along the floating rake Z's. On the eave plate, there's a leg with pre-drilled openings. Place this leg along the top of the eave framing member. Align the top leg of the eave plate flush with the finished wall surface at the eave of the building. Now, using self-driller no-washer screws, fasten the eave plate to the eave framing member at 12 inches on center. If you're using the floating rake Z like we are here, don't fasten through the eave plate into the floating rake Z. The floating rake Z must be able to move as the panels expand and contract when the temperature changes. For valley conditions, install the eave plate as required to properly align your valley flashings. If you need more than one eave plate, butt the ends, don't overlap them, and continue to fasten them down. To install the gutter drip flashing, place it flush against the eave plate installed earlier. Hold the gutter drip in place by fastening it to the substrate using pancake head driller screws at 4 feet on center. If your roof requires more than one gutter drip flashing, overlap the flashings at least 2 inches with 2 beads of tube sealant. Then fasten with pop rivets at 2.5 inches on center. Begin by installing the drop valley flashing against the eave plate installed earlier. To hold the drop valley in place, fasten it to the substrate using a pancake head driller screw at 4 feet on center. Be sure to position the fasteners so they will be covered by the Magna-Loc panels when it is installed. When you're ready to install the first panel, begin by applying a row of double bead tape sealant across the top of the gutter drip flashing right where the fasteners will be placed. Position the first panel so that the female leg rests on top of the floating rake Z and over the gutter drip flashing 2 inches past the finished wall surface. To hold the panel tight against the floating rake Z, use C-clamps every 10 feet along the length of the panel. Now, using 5 self-driller XL screws, fasten all the way through the panel, sealant and gutter drip flashing into the eave plate. Making a fastening template can be a way to assure proper fastener placement. If you're using a floating clip system, the base of the clip must be aligned with the centering tab. Place the panel clip over the male leg of the panel and center the base of the clip with the center of the top flange of the purlin. Now, rotate the clip to a vertical position so that the base of the clip rests on the top flange of the purlin. Using 2 self-driller no-washer screws, fasten the clip to the purlin. These screws must be torqued enough to pull the floating base down out of the centering tabs. You'll want to install clips at all purlin intersections. Note that panel clips aren't necessary at eave framing members. There are a couple of details to note when installing panel clips. Most important, if a fastener strips out when you're installing it, you'll need to remove the clip and reposition the fastener so that you can drill a new hole at least 3/8 of an inch from the stripped hole. Alternately, you may use an oversized fastener in the same space. If you don't move the clip and make a new space or use a larger fastener, the roof will be weakened to wind uplift resistance. Also, if you're installing your clips over insulation, you'll need to have some method in place to find the purlins for proper clip location. To make it easier to locate purlins, insulation should be installed as panels are installed. Magna-Loc panels from Metal Sales come with a factory-applied side lap sealant, but on low side conditions, some additional sealant must be applied in the field. To start the side lapping process, apply 2 3/8-inch beads of tube sealant along the vertical male leg of the panel, across the horizontal portion of the top side of the male leg, and directly over the double bead tape sealant on the gutter drip flashing. Make sure you have the tube sealant meet the double bead tape sealant. Next, peel back the paper backing covering the double bead tape sealant at the gutter drip flashing. Roll the female leg of the second panel into place over the male leg of the first panel so that their ends are flush. Make sure the legs do not touch until the ends are flush. Now hold the two legs in place using C-clamps and using 5 self-driller XL screws. Screw through the panel, tape sealant, and eave flashing directly onto the eave plate from center out. Next, measure the distance from the female leg of the first panel. This dimension should be an equal multiplier of 16 1/4 inches for every 4 panels. Make sure the dimension from the start panel to the last male leg at the eave and peak is the same dimension within 1/4 of an inch of each other. For roofs with hips and valleys, field cutting of panels will be required for proper installation. Before seaming, hand crimp the panels 8 inches from the high side conditions, such as the ridge, peak, or end wall, to allow the mechanical seamer to engage properly. Never hand crimp Magna-Loc panels at clip locations. You must also hand crimp 8 inches along low side locations, like the eave or valley. This will secure the panels during the installation process, but it won't keep them in place during moderate to strong winds. We recommend seaming Magna-Loc panels shortly after you install them to avoid potential damage. To properly install the Magna-Loc system, you'll need a mechanical seamer. It's designed to seam panel clips and the vertical legs of the panel together for weather tightness and resistance to extreme weather conditions. You can purchase or rent a mechanical seamer and hand crimper by contacting Seamer Tools Incorporated. A mechanical seamer runs from ridge to eave with Magna-Loc panels that are installed from left to right. Before using a mechanical seamer, refer to the seamer's field manual for guidelines on proper use of the seamer so you don't damage the seamer or your panels. Before you start seaming panels, make sure they're properly aligned and locked into place. Use small C-clamps along the horizontal portion of the panel to hold it in place if necessary. Clear all dirt, debris, and excess sealant from the flat part of the panel. And make sure the first 8 inches of the seam at the eave, ridge, valley, and all high side and low side locations have been hand crimped. Now position the mechanical seamer over the hand crimped panel rib at the peak location so that the levers are on the same side of the seam that is ready to be mechanically seamed. Engage the roller levers in the following order: 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the pre-crimp lever. You may need to hold down the pre-crimp lever in order to avoid scratching the panel. Begin seaming, but stop the seamer within the first few feet to verify that it's properly seaming the panels. Continue seaming until you reach the hand-crimped eave. Turn the mechanical seamer off and remove it from the panel. Now hand crimp the remaining unseamed portion of the panel and continue on to the next panel. Repeat these procedures for all your remaining panels. Be careful not to run the seamer off the end of the panel. This could cause injury to you, a coworker, or passerby, not to mention the roof itself. Do not run the mechanical seamer over any hand-crimped areas. If your last panel runs beyond the edge of the building, you'll have to make an adjustment before installing the rake detail. You'll need to cut the panel accordingly and then bend the flat part of the panel up at least 2 inches. With the panels properly nested over the top of the floating rake Z, apply a row of double bead tape sealant across the upper side of the panel rib. Now, place a SSR rake cleat over the double bead tape sealant. Using self-driller XL screws at 1 foot on center, fasten through the SSR rake cleat, tape sealant, and panel all the way into the floating rake Z. Apply a row of double bead tape sealant across the top leg of the SSR rake cleat and position an SSR sculptured rake flashing so the top is flush with the top of the SSR rake cleat and the panel rib. Fasten it down using a stitch XL screw at 1 foot on center through the SSR sculptured rake tape sealant and into the SSR rake cleat. Next, install a SSR rake slide over the lower leg of the SSR rake flashing using the appropriate fastener at 1 foot on center. In this case, we're using a stitch XL screw. After the panels are installed and seamed, apply a 2-inch piece of tape sealant to the flat side of the panel rib and attach SSR gutter supports to every other panel at the panel rib. Using self-driller XL screws, make sure you fasten them down the slope of the sealant line. For reference, you should know that SSR gutter supports can be adjusted in or out to allow the gutter to be installed in a straight line even if the edge of the roof is not straight. To properly place the gutter flashing and sculptured gutter end on the first gutter section, consider using a rake-to-gutter connection. Fasten the sculptured gutter end using 8 stitch XL screws or pop rivets and tube sealant. Next, position the gutter over the SSR gutter supports with one end against the rake flashing. Then rotate the gutter into position. Next, you're going to clamp the top of the back lip of the gutter into position using a C-clamp. Now install a stitch XL screw or pop rivet where the front lip of the gutter rests on the SSR gutter support, fastening the back lip of the gutter to the flat panel using 2 stitch XL screws per panel. In locations where heavy rainfall or severe ice and snow may occur, metal sales standard gutters may not be suitable for your use. Your metal sales representative can help you with this and any other needs you may have throughout your project. Begin by sliding the backup channel under the upper edge of the panel, allowing enough space to properly install the high side eave assembly. Once you have the backup channel in place, use C-clamps to hold it still as you apply a row of double bead tape sealant across the panel. Make sure that you cover all ribs up and over about 2 to 4 inches from the panel's end. Once you have the closure set in place with the tape sealant, use 5 self-driller no-washer screws to fasten it into the backup channel. Make sure you fasten all the way through the end dam, tape sealant, and panel into the backup channel. Once your closures have been fastened down, it's okay to remove the C-clamps. After all of the end dams are installed, place a row of double bead tape sealant across the tops of them. Make sure you fill any and all gaps left around the end dams with tube sealant. Next, you're going to either need to field miter the rake trim to fit the peak flashing contour at the corner of the building, or install an SSR sculptured corner box with tube sealant and stitch screws. Now, install the SSR sculptured high side eave flashing and secure it to the top leg of the end dams. You'll need to use 3 stitch XL screws per panel. Next, fasten the SSR sculptured high-sive eave flashing to the finished wall using the appropriate fastener for your project. We're using the Stitch XL screws at 1 foot on center. To flash the vent pipe, use a rubber roof jack or similar pipe flashing. Apply double bead tape sealant between the panel and the base of the rubber roof jack. Attach the base of the rubber roof jack to the panel using Stitch XL screws. Attach a stainless steel hose clamp to the rubber roof jack where the boot meets the pipe and apply a continuous bead of tube sealant. If the through pipe interferes with the panel rib, you may need to relocate the through pipe. Installing a metal sails roof system is a fairly clean process, so after the work is done, there's not much left to do. Check the panel surfaces and flashings for any loose debris and metal shavings. Any dirt may be washed off with a mild detergent and water using a soft cloth. Small scratches on panel or flashing surfaces don't require touch-up painting unless they're deep enough to penetrate the Galvalume substrate under the paint. If needed, only use Metal Sails approved touch-up paint. If a panel is severely scratched, dented, or penetrated, you will need to replace the entire panel. One of the best features of metal roofing is the low maintenance required for the life of the roof. Every year, inspect the flashings and roof system. Remove debris to keep the panels moisture-free. Tighten any loose fasteners and apply new sealants to any joints that need it. And if needed, wash the panel surface with a mild detergent and water. For more details about maintenance and cleaning your metal sails roof, please refer to the installation guide or visit our website. For more information about metal sails systems or for technical assistance, call us at 1-800-406-7387 or check out Metal Sails on the internet at www.metalsails.us.com. You've installed one of the finest metal roofing systems in the world, safely, easily, and correctly. Your metal roof will provide beauty and protection that's virtually maintenance-free for years to come. Congratulations on a job well done.